back to storyboarding.
We in the writer's room.
Sounds like waterboarding for stories.
Essentially, yeah.
We're just taking books and just waterboarding them.
Tell us your stories.
So, I was thinking this week to start the story, right? We should start it with Charlie getting his kneecaps broken. Right.
Okay.
So the scene sets, right? This is kind of how I was thinking about it. The scene sets, or the story opens, and Charlie is tied up in a chair in an empty warehouse with a bag over his head. Okay. You picturing this?
Yeah, I'm listening.
Yeah.
So Charlie wakes up. Charlie wakes up in this warehouse, and he starts freaking out, right? He starts freaking out. And then all of a sudden, you hear the dragging of a baseball bat across the floor and footsteps walking towards him.
I thought you said dragon, like a dragon.
Yeah, a big
Like a
dragon
dragon?
comes out.
Yo, I was like, wow, this is
Going
getting real. This is real
left field.
crazy. Yeah.
Left
Like,
field.
this fucking dragon comes in. All right. Back to the
Right?
story. Back to the boards.
And the guy reaches over and pulls the bag over his head. Charlie's tied up. He can't speak. And the guy is the enforcer. He's their big guy. I haven't thought about like his name or anything like that, but he's like he's their enforcer, right? And he punches him in the face. He starts screaming, starts squirming, punches him again until he stops. And then you've got not the boss, but like either the boss's son or the boss's right-hand man walks towards him. He's got like dress shoes on. You could hear the clanging of the shoes hitting the ground as he's walking towards him. And then he pulls up a stool and he puts it down. And then he starts questioning him. You know, I'm thinking like this could be like a big monologue of like, you know, we could get like a backstory, maybe like not like a Joker, like, do you know where I got these scars type of story, but like a story along those lines of like, you know, my dad back in the day caught this guy stealing, and you know, he denied it, and you know, sure as shit, my dad caught him stealing. You know what he fucking did?
Oh.
So I haven't worked out the story in my head because I wanted to be like, you know, something very impactful. But like the whole time he's talking calmly to him, and then he starts questioning him. Where's my fucking money? I know you've been skimming off the top. Where's my money? We have people. We've seen you at the clubs. We've seen you buying bottle service. We've seen you where we've been short for the last couple months. Where's our fucking money? That's when he gets his kneecaps broken. That's kind of how I've been thinking about the scene being set. Like the story starting with that like big impactful moment. And then we cut to JT and then introduce him as a character.
So I have something interesting that might be kind of cool for the monologue. So if like this right-hand man or boss or like lieutenant, whoever that you were referring to, what if he like started it off, you know, you said like talking about his father, him being like, my father was a very smart man, but he was also a very foolish man. And then he like goes in about like maybe, you know, he was too empathetic towards some people, let him slide sometimes.
Yeah.
You know, and he's like, I'm not trying to do the same, and sets an example with what's his name again?
Charlie.
Charlie. I wanted to say Eddie, but that didn't sound right. Okay, so maybe Charlie's like the first guy that he wants to set an example to and just, be a hard ass.
So, my question to you guys is, how sadistic do you want this guy to be?
Wow. That's the question you have for us?
Yeah. So
Yeah.
the story could go one of two ways, or it can go a bunch of different ways, right? When you're talking about his dad, right? So he's talking about his dad. He could talk about how ruthless his dad is. He could talk about how his dad was taken advantage of and how he would believe everyone who lied to him and they kept stealing from him.
Right.
Or
He trusted his guys, but didn't realize what was going on underneath his nose type shit.
yeah, or we could end that story with him realizing that his dad was getting taken advantage of, and him killing the people that took advantage of his father. The next level.
Okay.
So
I don't
it's a revenge.
I'm
It's a
workshopping.
revenge tour for this guy.
Or like it's just like him, how he became who he is. Like how we're building the character, how he became the guy that he is.
I thought this. Okay.
Go ahead, Joe.
No, I'm just processing it. So I'm trying to make sure I understand it all. Keep going.
Well, I'm just saying, like all these characters that we're building, they all have they all need like a piece of depth, and this would be like the first. Like Charlie's there, right? It's gonna set the scene on Charlie, but he's more of like a tool that we're using. We're using him to build off of this other guy who's not the boss. He's not the big bad guy, but he's the bad guy's right hand man, and he might be ambitious, but he could also be sadistic.
I'm starting to feel like you don't need us for this again.
No.
Like
I'm asking questions about how do we build this character? What kind of character do we want this guy to be?
Wow, loose cannon.
Loose cannon?
Yeah. Like off the rails type of guy.
Okay.
And the boss gets like impatient with him.
Okay.
Maybe.
So
I don't know. That could be
getting
an
lost in
avenue.
like who's who at this point.
So let's give the second guy in command. Let's give him a name, so we can understand. We can have a better grasp of who we're working with here.
Second in command. Who would it be? It's a good bad guy name.
It's a good bad guy name.
Yeah.
We should give him like a name that like people don't fear.
Kevin.
We'll call him like Lorenzo
Kevin.
Peaches.
What? No.
That sounds terrible.
I know.
Nah, do Kevin.
Mr. Apple.
Kevin Apple.
Oh, I like
No,
that he doesn't have a first name.
Just Mr. Apple.
I like that he doesn't have a first name.
So he's just Kevin?
No, Mr. Apple.
Mr. Apple?
Yeah. It seems like
Okay.
such a harmless name, but it's like kind of ominous because like you don't know his first name and you don't know if Apple's really his name.
He could be
Just what
eating
he
an
goes
apple
by.
too.
Yeah.
He just eats an apple a day.
Like he's just all he has.
That's his thing.
Yeah.
Like he could walk up to Charlie. Mr. Apple could walk up to Charlie eating an apple. Right?
Sure.
Like that's how like he like keeps his calmness. Is he eats an apple? He's eating an apple while he's interrogating him.
Okay. Yeah, hyper focused on like the eating an apple part of it. We were just
I
trying
don't.
to get
It's just another piece of depth.
Okay, yeah. How deep are you trying to get, bro? Because it sounds like you're just trying to get
He's
to the
got an
Earth's
apple
core.
orchard out.
Yeah, yeah. He's in an apple orchard, and that apple orchard actually started because way back in the day, his great grandfather had got an apple from somebody, and he took the seeds and he planted it, and then he took the seeds from those apples and planted it again. So he just grew this orchard. So growing up, he just always ate apples. So now as an adult, he eats apples. He just goes by Mr. Apple. I feel like that's too much depth.
No, we could work with that.
We could work with that.
We could.
Like, I feel like we don't need to build out so much background for every character just to make the main people like where in this story. Like, so you have your main character, which is JT, correct?
Yep.
Okay, so JT's your main character. The story's focused on him. So like the other, like the setting up how he ends up in that situation makes sense with having what's his name, Billy? No, I'm sorry, Charlie.
Charlie.
Yeah. So like, given the start, like, first you gotta. Are you doing this as like a screenplay setting or like just like a book?
I figured it'd be a book.
Okay, so you have the situation that leads us into JT's life.
Yeah.
So it starts out Charlie's in a warehouse somewhere.
Yep.
And they pull the bag off his head, and there's Mr. Apple.
Yep.
Eating his apple, and he starts questioning him, and he talks about how, you know, the big boss, like John said, would you say he's smart, but he's not smart or something like that?
Oh, the lieutenant, like the second
Yeah.
in command's dad.
Yeah, which is
Yeah,
the boss.
he's smart, but he's a foolish man.
Okay, yeah. So Mr. Apple does his little speech to Charlie, tells him about how, you know, Big Dog is a smart man, but he's also a foolish man. He didn't notice, you know, he trusted his people. He never know he didn't pay attention to certain like small details. So he might have missed people skimming off the top, but not me. I'm not gonna stand for that. There's consequences for that, what have you. Right? Am I following this correctly?
Yep. Yep.
Okay. And then so he tries to get Charlie to confess to it. Charlie doesn't. He says, okay, you pay the ultimate price. Boom. Pops his knees. Right?
Yep.
So that was, you know, the previous like 12 hours earlier type of deal.
Or
Right.
Hang on. Just to like amp up like this dude's level of sadisticness, we can like have like Charlie like confess to doing it, you know, and telling him the exact amount he's been taking each week and everything. And then the guy just like, okay, yeah, I don't believe you. I think you're taking more, and fucking just, you know, breaks his kneecaps anyways.
Okay. I thought you were gonna say something a little bit different, but I like that too.
I thought you were gonna
Okay.
say what I was thinking, where he breaks his kneecaps, he confesses, and he goes, "Okay, I believe you," and then puts a bullet in his head.
Oh, I wasn't going that
Oh,
far.
okay.
Oh,
Just straight up kills
I
him.
wasn't killing Charlie. Figured that was a little dark that early on. I thought you were gonna say he gets Charlie to confess, like basically like tricks him and says like, you know, like if you tell me, like it'd be a lot easier on you. And he tells him, and like so Charlie finally confesses, and then he still caps his knees. And Charlie, you know what I mean?
To me, I have to assume that Charlie's already been, you know, getting the shit kicked out of him
Right. But
by the guy. So he's like all battered and bloodied. He's like, I'm telling you the truth. Like, I've taken it, you know, this amount. And guy's like, yeah, okay. Then boom, kneecaps.
okay.
I mean, that's just, I mean, you can do it any way, which way you want. Like,
Oh no,
you know what I mean?
that's what this is for.
how crazy you want to make the guy.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Oh,
Like
so
that's a good idea too, putting a bullet in his head at the end.
so okay, so let's do this. We each I feel like we each have slightly different versions. Pitch each of you like let's pitch our versions, both or like that part of it. Just give a quick pitch on it, and then we'll take a vote, so we don't get caught up.
I
Okay.
think my line in the monologue I'm going to pitch for more than anything.
No, you're that line in the.
No.
I mean, I'm in on that line in the monologue. That you talking about he's a smart man, but he was
Yeah.
also foolish. No, I love that. I don't know about you, McGlove. I fucked with that.
Yeah,
That's why
yeah.
I like. That's why
That's
when
what
I
I
was
was.
saying that,
Yeah, that's what I was looking for.
yeah.
Okay.
I was just talking about the whole like the knees aspect of it.
Yep.
It's a small detail, but I guess it's kind of big because it determines how that character. Because my guess is that Mr. Apple now at some point is going to come in contact with JT.
Yeah, eventually, yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So I feel like how we set up that part of it, then like how Mr. Apple handles things, will determine what his interactions with JT will be like later. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
Right.
like that's what I was saying. So like McLovin, you said he confesses and then kills him. Charlie
Yeah,
confesses
so
and Mr. Apple. Okay, yeah. Cool.
so the way that I was picturing it in my head as we're talking about it, wakes up, big guy with the bat walks from behind him to in front of him, pulls off his hood. He's screaming, punches him in the face until he stops. Mr. Apple comes
Super
walking
detailed.
up to him, eating an apple, takes off his gag, right? Takes off his gag, and then tells him the story about his father. Tells him the story about his father. Then he asks him, I know you've been skimming off the top. Where's my money? And Charlie's like, I don't know where your money is. I didn't take any money, this and that. And then he points and he goes, right leg. And the big guy that's with him, takes the bat, smashes his right knee. He's dying in pain, or not dying in pain, but he's in pain. I can do this all night. You got two legs. You got multiple fingers. You gonna tell me where my fucking money is? Doesn't tell him. Does the left. Okay. I'll tell you. I've been skimming off the top. This much money. I've been doing this. I can get you money. I can repay you. Don't worry. Just give me some time. I'll get you your money. And then he stands up and he goes, that's all I needed to know. And then he puts a bullet in his head.
Okay. What's your
End
idea,
scene.
John?
Yep.
My idea. So I don't think I'm picturing, the level of sadisticness that you are, McLevin, because in my version it would just be, Charlie and the boss. There wouldn't be no other big guy. So in my version it'd be like, after the monologue, he slides some brass knuckles on some shit, and he just starts going to town on him. And he's like, "You're gonna tell me how much you've been taking? Tell me." And he tells him, and he's like, "All right, cool. I don't really believe you though. Broken kneecap." And he's like, "You gonna tell me now?" And he's like, oh. And then, Charlie just makes up a figure, tell him a high number. And he's like, "Okay, cool." And then I like the idea of the bullet to just, raise the level of fucking psychoness this guy is.
What do you think, Joe?
So my pitch would have been Charlie gets brought in, got a bag over his head. Sag over said so he's like blindfolded. He gets set down. 2 guys set him down on a chair. They take the bag off and walk out. He's all bloodied and stuff like that. He's beat up, like he's been like pounded already.
Okay.
Mr. Apple comes, like Mr. Apple's there. He's eating his apple. He does his he does his speech. The whole whatever. My father was a smart man, but he was a foolish man. Blah blah blah. He tells Charlie like, "I know you've been taken." Charlie's like, "I don't know what you're talking about." So I like the brass knuckles thing, but I feel like him just like hitting him a couple times, and Charlie just being like, "No." He's like, "If you own it." Mr. Apple is like, if you own it, this can end a lot better for you than if we keep going down this road. Charlie confesses, And so like what I was thinking too is Charlie confesses and says he did it. Something has to do with like trying to get money for his family. I only say that because I'll explain in a second. So like Charlie says, "Yep, I did. I'm sorry. Like I just needed some money for whatever, a family situation." And Mr. Apple says, "See, was that so hard?" And then caps him in the knees, making him feel like he still got off easy because he could have been killed. But no, there's still a price you got to pay. The only reason I throw in the whole end scene, the only reason I throw in the whole like him saying that he did it for like a family situation is because JT is going to be doing this ultimately for a family thing. So it almost shows like how his life could end up.
True.
You know what I mean? Like you find out like one way that this person's character could end because basically Charlie is the same kind of situation that JT was in.
Aren't people going to ask questions though if he's not dead?
No,
That's my only thing about him being left alive.
Like why he got fucked up, why he's out of work,
Yeah.
why he's
Like, where's he going to go after he breaks his legs? Or breaks his knees?
He's home. But like, see, this is where like you could have later in the story. What's up?
Well, I'm curious to know what you were gonna say because I was gonna piggyback off of later in the story.
Because like I was gonna say like because you could later in the story have JT have an encounter with Charlie when JT's like in it, and like they could have that moment where Charlie breaks down like what happened to him. Like I was in the same situation as you, kid. You know what I mean? I was just trying to make a few extra bucks to take care of my family. And look at where it ended up getting me. Like, you better off getting out now before it's too late. And you end up with 2 holes in your knees.
Go ahead, John.
Okay, so I think I got something here. This could be good. So I liked what you said, Joe, about the after shit, all that. I think it'd be kind of cool, like the boss at the end of like fucking him up or keeping him alive, just goes like, maybe, if you asked me, I could have helped you out of something. And then, you know, ends up paying for his fucking hospital bills or some shit. And then it goes into JT having to be like, fuck, I don't want that happening to me. I'm going to ask for help. And then that's how he gets tied into the mob.
But wouldn't that part with JT though end up canceling out the whole how he got into it in the first place that we discussed like last time?
About him wanting to like get extra money or
Yeah.
well, it's
Like,
just like, you know, it just adds on to, another reason why he wants to join the mob. Because he
no, I
needs
get
the money to help his family and he doesn't want that shit happening to him.
but
Because now we're talking about the backstory of this bad guy.
what bad guy?
The
bad guy.
Mr. Apple.
Yeah, Mr. Apple.
What? Now I'm lost.
What do you mean?
I mean, I'm lost. Explain what you just said again.
So you have Charlie, who got fucked up,
Yeah.
right? Mr. Apple goes, maybe if you just asked instead of stealing from me, I could have helped you out. And, Charlie's on his route, and fast forward now. No, I'm not Charlie. JT. JT's on his route, doing the route, and he runs into Mr. Apple. And JT, sees like a picture that Mr. Apple shows him and is like, yo, this is what happened to your boy. And JT running through his mind, I don't want that shit happen to me. I need the money for the family purposes, yada yada. And then
Right.
it ends up ultimately joining the mob.
Right. So that's what I'm saying then. So that concept right there completely canceled out everything we discussed and how he got into the mob before.
You have to go back and re-listen to it.
So like before we said that JT shows up to work, Charlie didn't show up, boss man tells him he's got to run his route. So he does Charlie's route, he gets to a certain stop. That's where he runs into the people that like in the mob.
You can just say it's Mr. Apple at that point.
But it doesn't necessarily have to be Mr. Apple.
No, you're right, it doesn't.
You know what I mean? Like Mr. Apple could, you know what I mean? He could,
Yeah.
He's not going to be out for the pickup and drop offs. You know what I mean? He's going to be sitting, chilling somewhere. This is just like the street level guys.
Okay.
You know what I mean? And they're like, where's Charlie? Charlie's not there. Like, hey, kid, you know what I mean?
Right.
You want to do what Charlie was doing to make some extra money on the side? Like, let us know. But if not, this conversation never happened. You can continue on to your next stop. And then he decides that was what we were talking about last time. And then he decides like to come back.
Yeah. So I'm like thinking like, did I, missing anything? You can just say that, that happened beforehand, and then
right. But if his
beginning of the story.
McLovin, you're not saying anything.
Yeah, I mean, from John's perspective, it's like later on when JT's questioning whether to continue doing this or not. That's when he's like, "You're in this. This is what happened to your buddy. This is what happened to your buddy. If you want this to happen to you, you're gonna keep doing what you're doing."
So that's after he's already in the mob, then.
Correct.
That's what I'm saying. That's different from the way John was putting it. That's why I was saying, like,
yeah,
like that conversation I like, but it wouldn't make sense if he's already joined the mob from doing the truck route for Charlie.
Okay.
But the way you just put it is if he's having a conversation later on, like contemplating leaving, and Mr. Apple has that conversation like, "You remember Charlie?" You know what I mean? And then explains to him like what happened and says like, "You're kind of in this now."
Yeah. Okay. Let me write these down. These notes down.
You're supposed to be doing that the whole time.
Okay. So we have scene 1 set. We have the premise of how he gets in there set. For the next episode that we are doing, we should think about kind of like the main conflict. how do we get there? What is the main conflict? How do we get there? How in depth do we want it to be? Right?
Mhm.
Do we want a mob gang? Do we want like a mob war? How does JT make himself invaluable
Yeah,
to the mob?
yeah, we got to
Right,
work
but
on.
they need him.
Yeah, we got to work on how, like, his growth into the mob too. Like, you can't. He's not just all of a sudden going to be that guy. We got to work on how he gets himself
Yeah,
recognition.
yeah. A little bit forward thinking, a little bit.
All right, we'll leave it here until next time with the Woogity Bros writers room. Peace.
That was very productive.
Yeah.
Peace.
Deuce.
Peace.